Hey, hey, welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming to our session here on the stadium. I never thought I'd make it to the stadium, guys. Welcome, welcome. So, my name's Dmitri Vietze, and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion. New tech, AI. Oh my! New tech announcements and advances in the music business are the norm as they drive our industry forward and launch us into the future. And in today's panel of tech innovators, you'll hear about new opportunities and spaces you may have never thought about. So please welcome Andrew, Megh, and LaTecia. Woohoo! Crowd goes wild. Yes, the stadium is doing waves. Oh, wow, somebody's got that little emoji thing going. Oh, there we go. Now we're talking, guys. Must have been the internet latency or something. So great to have you guys here. So I know a lot of panels, they start with the intros and then I actually like to introduce people as they come up and jump into the conversation. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is an amazing panel. I'm so excited to be with these three innovators and get their kind of take on all sorts of things happening in music tech, music that are emerging. And so I'd like to start off by asking, what emerging trends in music innovation are you watching? And I'll repeat the question, but Megh, I thought with you, Megh's the co-founder and CEO of SymphonyOS, a platform using AI to combine data and automate audience targeting while generating views, streams, and subscribers. And I see you're based in LA, Megh. Did I get the bio right? Did you want to add anything there?
Nailed it, nailed it. Yo, spent a lot of time doing marketing for artists and kind of took that and put it into a platform that any artist and team can use. Man, this one's close to home, but to answer your question, I think AI, not from the generative AI for artists to use, but AI for people that aren't artists in the industry to use has been very interesting to me. I feel like music, like any other industry, there's the creation of the music, which is with the artist, and then there's everything around it that the team has to do music out, whether it's running ads, organizing the actual rollout, making sure that all the metadata is correct. We ourselves at Symphony, we're using AI to help people with the actual marketing side of it and marketing that workflow. But I'm excited to see how AI emerges in different workflows, right? Both AI and like the more traditional AI sense, like large language models like ChatGPT, but also just AI in the back end and how people use that data to empower their businesses.
Cool. Great way to kick things off. And just in case, like, some folks might be like, "Oh, I play the ukulele. I'm here. I'm an acoustic musician." AI is artificial intelligence, and it's being used in so many different ways right now. And you've kind of explained some of them there. But really, when you say that's an emerging trend that you're keeping an eye on, you're talking about different ways in which, like, automation and things happen in a way that seem like magic now, basically, right? Is that what you were saying?
Exactly. It's like, let the artist make the art and then let all the other boring stuff get automated away so we can really focus on good music, good marketing, good visuals.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Okay, we're going to dig more and get some hot takes from LaTecia and Andrew on AI as well. Andrew, let's jump over to you. You're the founder and co-CEO of Beatdapp, which helps record labels and artists collect royalties and combat streaming fraud using machine learning and artificial intelligence and blockchain. And you've raised over $100 million for your startups and filed for over 40 patents, in 7 countries related to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain. Man, Andrew, what emerging trends in music innovation are you watching?
I know we've talked about AI. I think it's mostly about transparency and automation, like the creation side, but on the B2B efficiency side of things. So there's so much that can be done that's just still very manual the way it's done today, and just like collecting and data and transparency. And in my case, for example, when we started, we were building an audit problem. And as we were auditing for like the simple question of how many times was a song actually played on a streaming service, because the old way is you go pull the server logs, you match it to the reports, and it never lines up. We found fraud, and we were like, well, there's a crazy amount of fraud happening and no one's discussing this. And so we ended up becoming the leading industry tool for fraud detection on all of these streaming services. And so last year we shifted market share back 18% gross points to all artists, not just like major artists, but independents included. And I just think there's tons of ways that technology can be used in this antiquated system that we have today on the B2B side around sort of automation, predictive analytics, things that are not necessarily on the creative tool stack. That's what I'm excited about.
Amazing. A lot said there. We could probably unpack some of it, but let's just go to some basics real quickly. If somebody who's listening has never thought about fraud as it relates to, what exactly are you talking about? What's fraud in the music industry?
Yeah. So 80% of the fraud we catch is financially motivated fraud. Think credit card scammers who are just trying to get money out. They're not music industry professionals. They're not participating in the industry in any way. Literally, they're creating songs or taking songs, uploading through DIY platforms like a DistroKid, CD Baby, whatever. They're getting onto the streaming services. And then what they do is they either buy accounts through what's called account takeovers. So I go and take Megh's account and play songs on my behalf. He doesn't realize it's happening. Or I build an entire bot network. And what they're doing is just trying to run a certain amount of streams against all the songs they've uploaded. They don't want to be top 10. They don't want to break out. They're hiding in the data in the mid and long tail. And really what's happening is that think of it like Office Space or Superman, where they're stealing pennies from everybody. Like that's what's happening. So like last year, they stole $2 to $3 billion this way out of the industry. And so what they're doing is just loading a bunch of music on, running bots against it, playing one time per day, and no one's listening, but they're doing it across 40 different streaming platforms globally, and they're extracting billions of dollars that should have gone to artists.
Wow.
That's the most common way we see it.
So are they loading their own songs in, or are they also like loading other people's songs in?
I mean, it happens both. I would say the majority is their own songs, like mediocre songs, or they're buying songs off struggling artists. I mean, AI generated songs are one way to create massive amounts of new songs to upload, but that's just one tool. If it's not AI generated songs, they're finding songs every other possible way. They're speeding songs up, slowing songs down, whatever. But the goal is that they're their songs that they're uploading out of like some fake entity that they have.
Wow. You can see in the comments in the chat here, people are like having their minds blown and very surprised that, or kind of surprised that this is something that's happening, So here we are talking at a all access fest where people are thinking about how to get into their career, break in as an artist or maybe a music industry professional. And now all of a sudden, like, wait, you can build a business around the fraud around the business that we're trying to get into. What is going on? Cool. Yeah, nice to hear you kind of like just expose new ideas here, both Megh and Andrew. Great start. Let's get LaTecia into the mix here. LaTecia Johnson's the head of growth at FORMLESS, a creative technology lab headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts, working in Web3, AI, AR, augmented reality, embedded systems, I don't know what that is, and media production. LaTecia is also the founder of Visionary Rising, a creative studio for ambitious brands and creators ready to scale, and has worked at Apple, Microsoft, Nielsen, as well as several startups. Crazy career, LaTecia. Done so much already, still doing lots. What emerging trends in music innovation are you watching?
I think like they hit the nail on the head. AI, thinking about automation, really bringing transparency to an antiquated system that was built 50 years ago, and we're still working with some of those technologies. And then also thinking about creator tools as a service, thinking about SaaS models and how like software as a service really revolutionized the way that founders build their products. I think we're really at an inflection point for the same thing to happen for creator tools. We saw for distribution. We're starting to see a lot of solves for the automation of video assets and content creation. And so I think like with those tools coming into play, we're going to see 10x creators become 100x creators by being able to use a lot of these tech stacks. So those are the things that I have my eye on. I'm super excited about into and understand and explore.
I like it. I like you broadening out, giving us a few more topics to dig into, and we'll get into all those as well. I feel like we're on a superstar panel here. I'm super excited to be able to just hang out for 45 minutes and talk with these innovators, and I'm hoping that everyone in the room is feeling the expertise here as well. So what I'd like to do next, since there's so much we could be talking about, is kind of like put out either one of the innovations you guys have just said and take a little bit more of a dive in it, or maybe some that we haven't mentioned yet, and just talk through some of them. Let's start with a very basic one that kind of runs the music side of it, which is music streaming. I'd love to get like, what's innovative there? Is it innovative? And then also, what's your hot take? Like, where do we stand as an industry as it relates to it? And so starting with music streaming, Megh, you want to give that a stab? What's your hot take on music streaming today?
Hot take: music streaming for most artists nowadays is just top of funnel for them to drive to the real places where they make music, make money, merch, and touring. It's kind of my hot take nowadays.
That is a really good hot take. All right, so people are always talking about artists. Are they making enough money? They get paid a fraction of a penny per stream, and coming from the days of download or physical product where there were larger per unit payouts, let's say. Now it just feels like it's so tiny, but people are saying like you can't make a living at Spotify. But what you just said about music streaming is it's top of funnel, meaning that's how people find you. That's not where you make your money.
That's how I've been thinking about it, because I think there's so many artists vying for a lot of the same eyeballs. And what ends up happening is, instead of the superstars back in the day where you'd sell 10 million records, it's not the case anymore. You have much smaller fan bases that are much more committed. So I've seen artists go in and sell like 100 t-shirts at 20 bucks, and that's 500,000 streams. And that can happen in a few days for certain artists. I think there's also alternative methods of monetization, like LaTecia will go into it and tell you. But I think we're kind of in this world where there's too many people vying for similar attention, and music is where it starts, but the real money is in everything else. Like, how do you build a real connection offline beyond just streaming?
So how do you do that? I mean, not to go like super deep, but I mean, like, just like if you're thinking, oh, I upload my stuff through one of the DIY platforms that Andrew mentioned, I get my there, then I promote like crazy on Instagram or I don't know, TikTok or something like that. But then you're saying, wait, don't just drive people there to make your money. You got to drive people somewhere else to make money too.
Yeah, I think it's where it starts, right? I think a lot of artists will promote on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram consistently. And the music is like the entry point, right? It's like putting out music, driving fans to places to collect email data and phone number data, things like pre-saves. I think is a way to start getting out of this world where streaming is a first stop for people on your fans. Even if it's 10 fans, those 10 fans could buy 10 t-shirts and it could turn into something. So what I recommend to a lot of artists starting out is really from day one, think about your fan data collection strategy. Because as soon as possible, once you start fostering that community of people that actually gives you their data and wants to be reached out by you, that's when you can get closer to actually making money off of everything beyond just the music.
Nice. Okay, LaTecia, let's get a different perspective. What's your hot take on music streaming today?
It needs to change. No, it definitely needs to change. I think, artists are making a fraction of a penny, and it's not that there isn't any money in music streaming. It's that the model is broken. And so right now, platforms own the relationship for the audience, and that's actually so valuable. So because the platforms own the relationship and the labels need access to that, they entered into this partnership that kind of capped any usage within that streaming, how much money artists can actually make from it. I think the future model looks at creators, looks at artists, and puts them at the center, and then allows them to own their audience, similar to what Megh was saying. When you go to these micro audiences and you have more ownership of it, you can reach them more directly. You then get to determine what your pay per stream is, what your pay rate is, because music is a fine art, and it's been devalued so much that mentality has shifted, but it shouldn't be. That's my hot take. It needs to change.
I dig it. Yeah. In the chat, people are saying, hey, what streaming platform do you use? And one person says Apple and one person says Spotify. Are there platforms that do what you just described, LaTecia?
There are. It's one called FORMLESS, the one that I work for. No, seriously though, but FORMLESS has a platform, Share, as our primary DSP distributor, and allows artists to set their pay per stream. You get to go on there, you get to put the control in your hands, get to say, this is how much I want you to pay to stream access for my song. I want to leave it up there for 2 weeks. I want to be able to engage with you on a deeper level. And you continue to kind of build, and we're seeing artists who are able to create these environments and engage with their artists where they don't have to have 5,000, 10,000 streams to get maybe $100. they're actually making that money within 24 hours and it's being paid them immediately. And so I think that we're starting to see a lot of the DSPs, a lot of these distribution models pop up that does center the creator, puts them in more control, and then allows them to dictate how they move throughout their funnel.
Why hasn't this been done before?
I think it hasn't been done before because if you go really back to 2007, and we're dealing with a lot of it now, but streaming as it exists today wasn't something that people thought would come. It was an answer to free music being kind of taken away. And so a lot of the policies and things that were created 2007, 2008, I'm dating myself, Napster, was created as a response, right? It was a reaction to say, hey, music is free right now. We're losing a lot of money. This is a stopgap. It was supposed to be a stopgap. It was never supposed to be the solution. And it became the solution. And so now we're kind of in that space where, because streaming was a stopgap, we're having to figure out, well, what is that next thing to really create a solution for everyone, where everyone benefits, not just the label or not just the platform.
Wow, you crystallized it just perfectly there. I didn't think about that being the response, but I think you nailed it there. Andrew, let's get your hot take on music streaming. I mean, you talked about fraud, and that's obviously a hot take. And then we'll move through the other ones a little faster, but let's get you in on this.
Yeah, I think my hot take here is probably different than everybody else's. I used to break artists in the 2000s. Like, that's what I was mostly known for. I was the hacker that helped you get on from to manipulate Facebook. I got a lot of household name DJs in the top 20 of DJ Megh, like, for residencies. So my background is very much in that world. And so my view on streaming really is streaming saved the music industry. Like, I don't ever view it as a stopgap. I think it was a consumption change. I think it was inevitable. I think all of the sort of EDM artists were ahead of that because they weren't ever making money off their music anyway. They're making money on shows and merch. And so I think that they're the ones that were best positioned genre-wise, which is why I think they took off when streaming first took off. And you're seeing them kind of decline now as everyone else catches up. But my hot take on streaming is like really biased towards fraud. You know, like $2.5 to $3 billion was stolen last year out of a $16 billion market. Like, you know, like that is like a huge percentage of money is literally being taken from artists out the back door, penny at a time. And so that's like huge. And the other big hot side is the large distributors that we all know and love and use, like the day-to-day DIYs, 40 to 60% of all of their streams are fraudulent. So these DIY platforms are largely used for fraud. They're a huge fraud channel. And so whether or not like you as an artist realize it or not, it's actually just crazy how much fraud there is. I don't think the average person realizes how bad this problem is. And it's like, it affects you. It's like not just my streaming. My take is the streaming model is kind of broken because the pro rata model as it is today currently pays out people who are not part of our industry. And I think I'm not advocating for one model or the other. Like, my job is to catch fraud. That's what we do. We have a completely neutral cap table. Like, we don't have anyone from the music industry that owns our company. Our job is to be Switzerland and just make sure the numbers are the numbers. But what I see from this viewpoint is that, as long as there's incentives to steal money, and that is one pool of money that you can suck little pieces out of, the easier it is. So various models will emerge, and I think with those will come other types of fraud we haven't seen yet. But from my vantage point, streaming saved the music industry, but it also brought with it a world of problems that hopefully we can try and help solve.
That's like 2 hot takes for the price of 1, guys. You guys are a hot take thing a little seriously over here. LaTecia, do you want to respond anyway to that, or I'm good with multiple perspectives here?
Yeah, no, I agree that streaming saved the music industry. I think that streaming saved the music industry, and only 2 sets of people are from it right now. It's the labels and it's the technology companies, and the DSPs and the platforms, right? So I do agree that there's money being taken out because the model is broken, right? If the creator is at the center of it, then there will be checks and balances that you can kind of do more with. But if it's the technology company is basically saying like, hey, we delivered the technology, it's not our job to make sure that the artists are real. And then the label is saying like, hey, we have our signed artists and we know, it becomes no one's problem, but then it becomes everyone's problem.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We'll pick up the pace on some of these because I got a bunch of stuff I want to go through. Music making. Who wants to give me a kind of a hot take? I feel like music making has exploded. There's a lot more music getting created with marketplaces. We've talked about AI. There's like beats marketplaces. There's places where you can meet people and collaborate. And there's lots of new like software opportunities that automate or speed up certain processes. Who wants to take a hot take on music making in the industry right now? Anybody?
It's hard.
You take
I'll say it's hard.
hard.
My heart, it's, a lot of people don't know this. I tried to release this. I released a song last year. I created a collective because I knew I wasn't good enough on my own. So I figured we should all just get together and just do the process for fun. And the first, my hot take is I learned I'm not great at making music. So I went into the studio. I remember thinking I was going to be a baller. This was going to be so sick. I heard my voice back the first time. I thought that can't be me. Maybe I need to turn the volume up. That sounded horrible. Maybe turn the volume down. That sounded horrible. Hot take is there's tools, but it still benefits people who are good because no amount of tools were helping me. That's
technology is an accelerator, right? So if you're bad and you use technology, it's going to be even worse.
Worse.
LaTecia, go ahead, Megh.
Oh no, I agree with that. I think what's kind of happened today with all technology, literally every creative field, is that like it's way more accessible than ever before. I think it was a Queen documentary I watched. Like, back in the day, you could only make music. You could make it at home if you had a guitar, and then if you wanted to make it professionally, you would have to like go to a studio that maybe a label owned. You had to either get signed to them or pay them a bunch of money. And a lot of times, way back in the day when recording equipment wasn't as good, you had to pay, for the tape you used. This is back in the CD cassette days. Now it's like you can be at home, log into BandLab or, Splice, whatever you have. If I tried, Andrew, to your point, I would be terrible because I'm not a music maker, but a lot of people can now try and jump in. And that's how we're getting some of the Billie Eilishes of today, right? They're just hopping in when they're like 16, 17. They're like, all right, let me go on YouTube, mess around with this. And you end up kind of the new era of stars who are just kids at home that made music on the internet.
LaTecia, you want one? You want a hot take on this one?
I mean, I agree with both of them. It's hard. And so much technology is being created that, again, if you're a 10x creator, if you're already good, it's just going to make you better. If you're not that good, you have the potential to be passable. And so I think, music making is just hard. My hot take is that good artists will always rise to the top. We just have to create an industry where it rewards them for being good and continuing to build.
All right, we're going to keep going, guys. Money making. What are the innovations there? And what's your hot take there? Because that's, people want to make a living, right?
So many ways to make a creator as an artist that didn't exist a couple years before. My hot take is that if you own your audience, you'll always own a revenue stream. If you don't and you're only renting it, then you'll be, excuse my language, when an algorithm change. So the key is to make sure that you own your audience and access to them and position yourself to always have an avenue to make money.
Amazing. Megh, what do you think?
I feel like you could pick any number of paths in this industry or just like around creative fields. I think it's really just, I feel like there's so many people vying for the same types of objectives nowadays that the people who really cut through are the ones that just stay down and like keep going. Because a lot of even like Mr. Beast, the Drakes, look at any industry, the people who really cut through, even to like a middle level, like are the ones that just keep on going. Last week there was that girl on TikTok, Pinky Doll, who was like, gang, ice cream so good, and went crazy, and now she's making like I think 10,000 a day or something like that. I feel like there's a lot of ways to make money in this game. I think it's just picking one and being like, all right, let me understand all elements of this and just keep on diving in.
Interesting. I've thought about this with you see these artists that will jump on some innovation or some technical trend or some platform, like Andrew mentioned, like kind of gaming, YouTube and things like that early on, or Facebook, something like that. You jump on it right as the wave is forming. Learn it quickly the way Megh, you just described it, and then all of a sudden you're on the top of the wave. You're the one there, and you can kind of like ride it through. Sometimes you can then jump your surfboard over to another technological or innovative wave and transfer your audience as well, like some people did with Twitter. Um, but it's interesting to think like I think that's a good thing for young folks breaking into industry to think about. Like TikTok is not always going to be the TikTok that it is. Something else is going to come along. I don't know if it's going to be real, but something's going to come along, and you're going to catch it at the right moment, learn it the way Megh talked about, and then figure it out the way Andrew talked about, and ride that wave and own your audience the way LaTecia said. Although, you know, with the platform, sometimes it's hard to own your audience. But anyway, I'm the moderator, Andrew. You're the panelist. What's your hot take on money making?
I've made a lot of money in different ways in the music industry. My hot take is that I'm probably the opposite. Maybe I'm the boomer in this room, but I actually think that the hot take here is to do the old stuff no one's doing that's analog. All the artists I know that are making money at last, they have really deep. Owning your audience is important for sure, but owning a deep connection with that audience, like I think that is the point she's actually making, and I think that's the piece that's missing. Like some of the artists I know that you'll never think of are making a living. They bought their own house. They're paying for their own stuff. You know, they're happily working in this industry, and it's because they have fans that still buy all their tickets and go to all their shows. And that came from years of touring and fan meet and greets and talking to them, selling them one shirt at a time. And like, they just did the hard work that takes up like rolling your sleeves up and just doing the work and like grinding it out until you have like really embraced a connection with your fans. And if you never break commercially, you always have that base to fall back on and live off of. And so I think for me, making money is about doing the things that aren't flashy. It's about doing all the things that seem hard. Like people love to say Taylor Swift's the best in the world and like she sells tons of stuff. You know what I think? I think Taylor Swift shows up at her concert venues early, does an entire walkthrough, figures out exactly how she's going to engage with each fan in each section. She thinks about all the thousands of people she's going to have to meet and tries to like put like an empathetic face forward and actually connect with them. She's as big as she is, not because of her music. I mean, that's great too, but because of the action she does to set herself up for that. And I think that that's practicable at every level.
Dropping gems. You guys are dropping gems here. Love this. I hope everyone's taking in. We got a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to fast forward to a couple more questions of mine so we can get to the audience. So here we go. Fast forwarding, and we'll go back to some of these other crazy ideas. But how should new and developing artists think about the emerging innovations that are changing the music industry? If you're here, you're like, I've got some music. I'm starting to make some records. I'm going to do some concerts, whatever. What should they be thinking about innovation? The types of topics we're talking about.
Can I jump in quickly on that one?
Please.
Just first, you should be the first one through. The thing I see with artists all the time, they're so worried about their brand. They're so worried. I'm like, what brand? You have no fans. Like when you're first starting, if the innovation could be your edge. Like you're actually the thing that could propel you to ride that wave you were talking about. You should not be scared of that. I would be embracing every new tech, every new approach, every new type of partnership. You don't know what's going to end up being the thing that propels you, and just being prepared for those opportunities is important. So like, don't be scared. Don't worry about like, oh, my brand or my manager or whatever. Like you don't have one yet. You have one when you're Taylor Swift. You don't have one now. Like right now, go and like do everything that you possibly can and try everything because you don't know what's going to help you. That's what I think.
Love it. LaTecia, you want to jump in on this as well?
I mean, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think I see a lot of artists get caught up in wanting to be like the thing that is the trend currently. A couple years ago, someone told me something that I was always kept is like, you have to be thinking 10 years from now, right? And like, we'll find that thing that's going to be hot 10 years from now if you're always so focused on what's happening now. And so as artists, as emerging artists, you have the freedom of flexibility. You don't have managers, you don't have teams, you don't have all of these people who are going to tell you all of these different things and why. You don't have hundreds of thousands of fans who, if you send out a bad tweet, I don't know if we're still calling it a tweet or whatever, but if you send it out, they're going to be angry, right? So use this time to really explore and, you know, try new things and try different things. And then you can build out and say, hey, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. So many people are competing. Go to the place where there's no competition and you can define it for yourself.
Nice. What tools or platforms should artists check out right now? What are some things that you guys think they should be? I mean, since we're saying, hey, jump in, right? Do some innovative stuff. What should they be checking out? Obviously, all of your companies, SymphonyOS and FORMLESS and Beatdapp, definitely check them out. Yours is more for streaming services.
I'm probably the most honest answer because it's B2B streaming services. We help everybody whether they know it or not, but like, you know, can't really help you as an independent artist directly right now. But
well, Andrew, you've got a very objective position then, because you don't have to promote yours.
Symphony, love it.
Nice.
Literally, I loaded my last song up on there. I like checked out to see like how you would do marketing. I thought it was actually really well done around like thinking through what your marketing plan is and how you're going to roll this out. Really great if you're doing your first release. That's a third party objective view from having launched a lot of artists. I actually think it's a really great platform. So, you know, kudos to Megh and all the team over there at Chuka.
Thank you so much.
I also like Playlister, now called Song Tools. I think they're really great. They vet all the playlists that you're getting put up on. It's more like actual editors. You have to be prepared for bad feedback. I remember when I put my song on, a couple people were like, this sucks, you know, whatever. But you get real feedback from real people, and I think that's pretty cool. So and it's not going to make or break you, but it's just another thing to add to the tool belt that I think is like useful. Those are the two things I like the most.
All right, Megh, now you have to pay it forward. He shouted out SymphonyOS. what other tools and platforms do you think artists that are listening today should check out?
I think like what we kind of gone to, first of all, thank you, Andrew, for the kind words. We spend a lot of time trying to make it easy to use, so I'm glad it's shining through. I think with music tools, there's like 4 surfaces, right? When it comes to like artists themselves, there's like creation tools, like making the music. There's distribution tools, actually getting it out there. There's marketing tools like Symphony and Poster Club and whatnot. And then there's funding tools, like how do you actually get paid to make the music or off of your work. I think like those kind of categories of tools have been very interesting outside of marketing because we obviously occupy that. I think looking at tools on the funding side, like LaTecia, what LaTecia worked, for example, right? Like in terms of an alternative mechanism of valuing your work, you're getting paid for your actual consumption. Companies like Snafu Records, which is based in, I think, Sweden, but what they do is they buy records, or they license records from artists for like 3 to 5 years. And it's essentially a way for artists to get an upfront kind of loan on royalties that already make anyway. So I've seen a lot of artists use them in a mid stage of their career to get some funding instead of signing to a label or signing to a distributor. On the music creation side, I'm less adept on that piece of it, but I think like those are the sides that excite me the most. Like the tools that kind of take the record label and make them apart. Because I think those types of tools that artists can just make their own stack from is what the next generation of artists will be able to build their business on without having to sign to a label.
Nice. LaTecia, you want to suggest any tools before we move into Q&A?
I mean, they both hit the nail on the head. I was going to say Symphony. I literally text Megh every day, every time there's something new that they release. Like, man, this is so good. It's so good, you know? But I think like the 2 areas that people should focus on, and artists especially, is finding the right distribution partner that you can grow with and you can expand with. Maybe they have some label services so you can continue to grow. And then also finding the right partners that once you can get the product out, now you can figure out how to get it to as many people as possible, marketing, and then you can figure out how to collect your royalties, make sure you're getting paid what you want to get paid. And so when I think about those kind of areas, those are the 3 areas that I focus on. The tool that really comes to mind, not, you know, selling my own self, is Symphony. It's something that I tell all of my artists about, and then finding just the right distributor, places like SymphonyOS, that also have that extra step where you have the label services if you want them, but it also allows you to continue to test and explore and expand.
Meg, I think you showed up the right panel.
Seemingly a lot more. I appreciate y'all for real.
So awesome. We've got about 8 minutes. We've got about 5 questions. I'm going to pop through these because love to have the interaction, and the chat's been awesome. Thanks everybody for super being engaged and paying attention and asking questions. We've tried to answer some questions in the chat as well. But Sahil Datta asked, what are some of the new AI tools that people are currently using? Sahil said guys. I changed it to people, but all right. Anyone have any?
Boomy's really cool. I love Boomy AI. They've been in the news lately with some fraud stuff, but admittedly, they're one of our clients. They help kick a lot of fraud off their platforms. So I think they're one of the only AI companies that are actively proactively trying to make sure there's no fraud. And I think they have some really cool user tools. So for me, I think they're a great company to try and check out if you're trying to make music.
And just so people know, Boomy, you go to the web platform, it starts asking you a little bit about styles, starts allowing you to tweak. It'll basically come back with something very quickly, and you can start to tweak it a little bit, almost like a little bit of an equalizer, a little bit of a mixing, but then also you can copy and paste pieces and start to create kind of like beats, and then you can add your voice to it as well.
Yeah. And Audio Shake, I think is, if you're I think the stuff Jessica's built is incredible and really just especially if you're trying to go into more of a beat be used in other formats. I just think I don't know how you use it as a creator unless you're just trying to play along with something, but generally speaking, I think the platform and how she's created the stems and the use cases for that are not infinite but large, and I think it's a really cool technology that people should just check out, Audio Shake.
And just to explain, so what Audio Shake does is it uses AI to take a finished song and separate out the stems, the bass, the drums, the guitar, the vocals, which then allows different sync uses or licensing uses to do things a little bit differently. It creates new opportunities, or video gaming, things like that, where all of a sudden you can say, well, I want this song, but I want to change it, or I just want the bass line, or I want to have an instrumental version or whatever. So it creates opportunities, especially at large scale for large catalog owners and things like that. And if you're an artist, just throw in one. If you're an artist and you want to just play along with songs and stuff, there's another one called Moises.ai that also does some pretty cool stuff and has 6 million users or something like that. So a lot of people use it. Anyone else want to take a stab at AI tools? Or should we move on to the next question?
I think this is what everyone's going to say, but ChatGPT is way more versatile than I feel like a lot of people use it for. We use it for things like even calculating the number of streams an artist might get over time. You can just copy and paste a CSV into there based on past data and be like, yo, based on this formula historically, assuming consistent growth, where will I be in terms of monthly listeners in a year or streams, things like that. And even, with some of the plugins that they have now, you can go in, Jackie's on top of it with the plugins. You can go in and add in web browsing plugins. So one thing we've been playing around with recently, especially when we're making marketing and content plans, is we'll go in and paste it 5-6 links of current TikTok trends that we find on the internet. And then we have it use that to remix and come up with 10 video ideas. So we kind of give it ideas and then remix the ideas using the full ChatGPT tool set.
Cool. Awesome. Well, somebody asked, actually, let's see, Sahil's asking all these questions. Let's give someone else a shot and we'll come back to you, Sahil, if we've got time. Christian Ramirez says, what are some things you would like to see implemented in the tech and music space? There you go. What are some new ideas? What hasn't been out there yet that you'd like to see happen? Anyone got something besides what you're building?
I really like this artist-centric approach that the Universal is pushing because of this reason. And so a new way to calculate potential, it's user-centric-esque, but if you think about it, you're a big artist or you're an independent artist and you have your 100 fans and they're coming to your release and they're going to listen to your whole entire album all the way through. That should not be treated the same way as someone who's just passively listening on a playlist. Those plays aren't the same. I think a way that I've heard or conceptualized is a lean-in play and a lean-out play. A lean-in play is I'm here for this artist. I'm coming to hear the whole new Drake album. I want to hear the entire thing. Those plays are valuable in that relationship, in that platform, I think, than just listening passively. So I don't know what the end outcome for them and how the tech around that and how the formulas are going to work. But I'm really excited about the potential for artist-centric because it does separate a true fan from just passively listening and not necessarily being engaged with the music itself.
Nice. Okay, let's go to one more question here. We've still got a few minutes. This one is from Richard Trevino. Megh, with a tool like SymphonyOS, on the marketing side of things, do you see marketing agencies becoming obsolete?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get this question a lot. I don't think so. So for context, we ourselves run a marketing agency next to Symphony, and we use Symphony as our backbone or infrastructure almost to run the agency. So I think the way we really see it is that we're not here to take jobs or replace anyone. We're here to really bring this automated tech to people that run these types of businesses, whether you're a marketing agency yourself, a label yourself that has marketing in-house, a manager that's trying to market your artist, or an artist yourself. I think the way we've kind of built it out, the goal is more so equalizing the technology and democratizing it versus taking over anyone's jobs. And there's already been situations where people build their agency on top of Symphony, where they'll literally start an agency. They'll be like, wow, I can do all this stuff. They'll pay Symphony's $20 a month fee and then charge $1,000 to the artist they're helping out to do it on their behalf. So it's almost like this new economy that's kind of starting up around it. And obviously it's very early on, but that's kind of how we see it. It's very complementary to everyone's kind of objectives when it comes to marketing.
I dig that because we talked a little about platforms and tools that artists should check out, but a lot of people on here today are probably not necessarily artists, but they want to work in the music industry. And I think just as Megh mentioned, artists could jump on a trend sooner. Andrew and LaTecia talks about experimenting with things, be the first to do things, don't worry about your brand and all that kind of stuff. As a music industry young professional or new to the profession, new to the field, you can do the same thing. Like every tool that everyone's been talking about here, you learn as a potential manager, record label, concert promoter, booking agent, sync rep, all publicist, all of those things. You learn these tools, you can be on the front wave. And like Megh was just saying about Symphony, other tools as well, you become the expert in that tool and you start to be the go-to person for that as well. All right, we got 1 minute left. Let's see. Are there any legal issues around using AI platforms like Midjourney for cover art or merchandise? Everyone on LinkedIn is saying, hey, try this out. I'm a prompt engineer. Try this, try that. Read my slides, do this. And this is a great question, again, from Sahil about like, well, can we do that? Are we going to have any issue with that? Does anybody know?
It hasn't been defined yet, but it will be, right? The next 6 to 12 months, very interesting. It hasn't been defined yet. I would say err on the side of caution because it's built on something, it's based on something. And there was a recent decision that said that it can be used, it can't be used. It's the gray area. Be careful.
Nice. This conversation has been incredible. I hope everyone out there in audience land is appreciating taking notes and soaking it all up. Thank you so much, Andrew Batey with Beatdapp, LaTecia Johnson with FORMLESS and Visionary Rising, and Megh Vakharia with SymphonyOS. You guys are brilliant. Would love to keep doing it with you all day long, but we're out of time. Thanks to All Access Fest. Shout out to the team. Narit, Nick, the whole crew, really appreciate you guys and enjoy the rest of the amazing conference festival and just keep learning, guys. Just keep on learning.